when did the thought of becoming a career counselor happen to you? What brought you to the Red Pen?
When I joined the Red Pen, we had an office literally just the size of this area. Whenever we had families that would come and meet us for counseling, we would have to tell Bhavna, you go home. Because there was no space for anybody to sit.
And you didn't have any background as a career counselor, right?
Even till today, I cannot claim that I know everything. You'll never know everything.
What is your take on us as an institution?
We need more of you in India.
We always talk about this divide between a high school career counselor and independent career counselor.
I have sat on both sides. I've worked in a school. I'm sure 50% of the students went to independent counsels. I invite my competitors. Come, gain knowledge as well.
Hi, this is Ankur, and I'm back with one of our leading guests at Intersect for Masters Union. I have with me the Namita Mehta of the Red Pen fame that we all know about. And we are so excited that Namita will be spending next couple of days with us at Masters Union. In the next 30 minutes, we are trying to understand the journey that Namita went through to be the person that she is today for all of us. So, Namita, welcome to the Masters Union Intersect 4.0 podcast. We are so excited and honored that you are here with us. And as I said in my introduction, we know the Namita Mehta of the Red Pen fame. Personally, I know you professionally since last 5 years, I think more than 5 years now. And I think one of the first interactions that we had was when I was with Ashoka, and then subsequently when I went with OP Jindal, and we used to interact at various conferences and forums. I've always seen a young, dynamic person in you. I think you have never aged. You, you are somebody that people in the community talk highly about, and it's a compliment that people always, when I meet, have good things to say about you. Even in the grapevines, it's always like Namita Mehta is doing some fantastic work, and I have personally high regard for you. And I thought this opportunity will be great for us when you are coming here for Intersect, and you will be here with us for next couple of days. I wanted to have a more deeper understanding of your journey as a professional. What brought you to the Red Pen and White Bridge and leading a team of 150 people? I keep following you on LinkedIn. Every day you have some exciting content happening. You are in Dubai, you are in Mumbai, you are doing boarding school fairs. So how do you keep up, and what makes you going? And just tell us a little bit about your journey.
Thank you so much, Ankur. First, I want to say a huge thank you for inviting me here to Intersect 4.0. I have seen Masters Union grow under your leadership, and it's just super impressive. I've only had an opportunity to see a little bit of the campus, and I'm blown away by the students that I've met and this wonderful campus here. So thank you so much for the
Thank you so much for
opportunity.
joining us.
I'm looking forward to the panel discussion tomorrow,
Yeah.
and I think you've managed to get some of the industry leaders here over the next couple
Yeah.
of days, and I look forward to interacting with them. I think these conferences are such a great opportunity to learn from one another. And you said that you see me everywhere, and I genuinely believe that every conference that I attend, every place that I go back with so much learning, and I'm looking forward to the next 2 days.
Absolutely, and we are so excited that you are here with us. So, Namita, let's go back in time a bit and correct me if I'm wrong. You are in Mumbai, and you're thinking of a young Namita Mehta is thinking of a career to make. What were the thoughts, and when did that thought of becoming a career counselor, if I can use that term, a career counselor, happen to you?
So, Uncle, let's rewind back
Yeah.
to me growing up. So, in fact, I don't know if you know, but I grew up in Hong Kong.
Oh, I didn't know
That's
that.
still home for me. My parents live there.
Wonderful.
I attended a German-Swiss international school in Hong Kong. So I did my schooling there until the 10th standard.
Wonderful.
After that, I went to a British boarding school where I did the A-level program. And then I went on to study my undergrad and postgrad at the University of Oxford in the UK.
Super.
And I read molecular and cellular biochemistry.
Yeah, I remember reading that on your LinkedIn profile.
And I absolutely love my degree, and I absolutely love science. So when I graduated, I explored science. I actually moved to India after I finished my postgrad degree, and I dabbled in pathology for a while. So I worked in Just Look Hospital, I worked in Metropolis, and honestly, I got very bored. It was just the same tests that you were doing. Of course, research was something that I was interested in, and I did get the opportunity to do a PhD in a lab under Dr. Firoza Parekh, who is an IVF specialist. She said, Namita, come do your PhD in my lab, but it'll take you 6 or 7 years. It's not what you're used to. It's not Oxford. It's not going to be an international lab. While I love science, I realized that I love people.
Yeah.
And this was around 2003. That was when international education was mushrooming in India. When IB opened up, there were IB schools opening. Um, it was just a very exciting time in education. One of the first IB schools in Mumbai, the B.D. Somani International School,
Yeah, I know BD
the
Somani.
principal of that school was actually a family friend of ours, Mr. Don Gardner.
Okay.
And he knew about my education journey. And he would come home for dinner and be like, Namita, please just come to the school, speak to our students, tell them about your journey, what led you to Oxford, what led
Oxford.
you to study science. And I used to do it as a favor. I used to go
Mm.
into school and, this young girl and would just share my experience that this is what I did, this is how I built my profile, this is what I enjoyed. And then he said, Namita, join the school as a counselor. I said, but Mr. Gardner, I have no experience. I've not done this. I have a degree in biochemistry. He said, doesn't matter, I'll train you, come. So I
Wonderful.
joined, I was the first college counselor
At BD
at
Somani.
B.D. Somani International School. It's still very much there, and both my kids go there.
Yeah, I know. I know BD
So
Somani International School is
I
a
kind of
fantastic school.
joined B.D. Somani International School as the high school counselor, and I worked there for 3.5 years. It was the best decision that I've made, and I haven't turned back. They really invested in my professional development. In my second year, I went to IACAC. Mr. Gardner was very supportive of everything that I wanted to do. He involved me in many decisions. It was a journey of growth.
Yeah.
I had my son in 2010 and
Okay.
my daughter in 2012.
Wonderful.
And then I took a 2 year career break. I had two kids under two, and it was just a bit overwhelming,
I
to be
know.
perfectly honest. So I
Yeah.
took some time off.
Yeah, I can
And when I
understand.
wanted to get back to the counseling space after my daughter turned two, my younger one, I wanted a more flexible kind of a setup. And that's when I joined the Red Pen as a counselor. Kim Dixit and Kavita Mehta were running it at the time, and it was a small firm. There were 6 employees at the time. And I joined them as a counselor.
This was which year?
This was in 2014. I started, like I said, it was a very small setup and it worked because I had two young kids and I was a counselor with them. And that slowly grew. In fact, in the first year that I worked with them, I was very lucky to work with some of the brightest students. There was a boy from Kanpur who we worked with that got a 100% scholarship to MIT.
Amazing.
Two of our students that year were also admitted to Harvard at the undergrad level, and one of our students was admitted to Cornell. Again, I don't like to take credit. This is the students' success. We were simply facilitators and we were part of their journey. But these stories went viral, and that's when kind of the Red Pen really took on shape. We had schools that were approaching the Red Pen and asking for support. And because of my experience at BD Somani International School, I worked with Kim and Kavita and we pitched to several schools. Kim and Kavita have always given me a platform to do whatever I want and involved me in the decision making. And in 2016, I ended up buying equity into the company.
Wonderful. Oh.
And that's how the journey started. And
So you fell in love with the Red Pen and the work that they were doing, that you
absolutely.
invested.
I invested in it, and it was a much smaller company at the time. Like I said, it was. I'll tell you a funny story actually,
Yeah.
Ankur. The office when I joined the Red Pen, we had an office literally just the size of this area, this
Okay.
podcast area.
Okay.
And it was me, Kim, Kavita, and we had a woman called Bhavna, who's still with us today. Whenever we had families that would come and meet us for counseling, we would have to tell Bhavna, you go home, because she lived in the next building, because there was no space for anybody to sit. So Bhavna would go home, and we would have our counseling sessions with these families. And then we would call her back and say, okay, Bhavna, they've left, you can come back now. So look, we started there, and it's just been a wonderful journey. When I joined the Red Pen, they primarily focused on the essay editing part of the application, hence the name the Red Pen.
Okay.
And that's what Kim and Kavita used to do. And when I joined, I said, listen, guys, we can't only do the essay part, right? Because the application is viewed in a holistic manner. There's the activity section, there's the honors section. It's the full application,
Yeah,
right, that we
yeah.
need to look at. So we started then offering the full service. And this was only undergrad and MBA at that point in time.
Yeah.
Then what happened was we decided to add boarding schools.
Yeah.
We had a lot of students that would come to us in the 8th and 9th standard. So we then took out undergraduate preparation. So we had boarding schools, undergraduate preparation, undergraduate application. And then we also decided to develop a postgraduate team that was not MBA. Anybody that wanted to do a postgraduate degree that was not related to business, we had a separate team helping them. So this is kind of our journey.
So I mean, from University of Oxford, from a science background, you went to BD Somani, became a career counselor, took a family break, and then you went back to the Red Pen, and then you were actually investing in the company in 2 years, and you were revamping their offerings and saying, okay, guys, we need to do this. So and you didn't have any background as a career counselor, right? I mean, tell us a bit about that. What was that learning curve that you went through to become a career counselor? As you said, you were enjoying it because you were sharing your own story of how you went to Oxford.
No, so Ankur, that's a fantastic question. I don't have any formal qualification as a career counselor, right? But while I was at the school, I always invested in my own professional development.
Mm.
So whether it was Mr. Gardner, who I would call my first mentor, he was always there. I was very young at the time, and he would always guide me. He also allowed me to go to all the conferences, attending these conferences, hearing from other counselors what they were doing, introducing systems. Now, as a school counselor, I also had a lot of access to university admissions officers because every
Yeah.
time they visited Bombay, they would come to BD Samani because
BD
at that
Somani.
time it was one of the only Ivy schools at the
Only
time.
Ivy.
So whenever they would come, I would spend almost 2-3 hours with each admission officer, and I would make notes about the university. I would understand the application process. Honestly, college and career counseling is a very human process.
Yeah.
It's a very personal business, right? And it's about developing the right relationships. Even till today, I cannot claim that I know everything. You'll never know everything. But what is the key skill? This key skill is to be able to find out the right information,
Yeah.
and tap your network for that.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, whether it is communities like the Outreach Collective, or whether it is IACAC or
Yeah.
IECA, we all tap each other. If
Yeah.
I have a student that is working with me and I don't know the answer, I ask people in the industry. So there was also a situation one year where I had 4 students apply to the same Ivy League college.
Okay.
And the parents were just like, how can you allow all 4 to apply? The university will not take them. What will happen? That Ivy League college admission officer was in my office just 2 weeks back. And I just sent her an email to say, there's so much chatter in school. There are 4 kids that I've sent an application for. What's going to happen? Parents are very nervous. And she said, Namita, don't worry. You'll be very excited with the outcome. She accepted 3 of them in the early decision round.
Wonderful.
And the one that was deferred was accepted in the regular decision round. So my whole point is that I'm still learning today,
Yeah.
Ankur. There's no kind of finite process here.
And I am so resonating with your thought on a career counselor cannot know everything
No.
in this world. It's so much knowledge. And you know, as somebody who has worked in the admission space for 15 years, I mean, right through my journey from Ashoka to OP Jindal, to then I went on to work with Cialfo, worked with, you know, thousands of schools across 40 plus countries, and I've been to many places and met so many career counselors. I think this is what is the important aspect. I mean, you need to understand that you will never know everything. That is to know about career counseling, collaboration, and making those human connections possible. And I've seen that in your own work. The Outreach Collective you mentioned, which you know, I co-founded, uh, was was something that I also realized as an admissions officer. A lot of students used to come to me and say, okay, how do I get into, you know, Ashoka? Tell us, what is it? What does it take? A lot of my friends used to call me, and then used to ask me questions about Ivy League universities in US, since I used to also travel to international ACAC and had those connections. And I said, I don't know everything. And I actually did some certifications in career counseling, and those online certifications, very branded certification. After doing that, I was like, I don't know anything after doing this also. I could easily have been tagged as a career counselor, but I never chose to do that because I didn't feel I'm a career counselor. The Outreach Collective, I think, came out of that. And I think, again, you mentioned it. I'm so happy that so many people like you also resonated that career counseling has to be built on network and collaboration, like-minded people sharing information between each other rather than just thinking of us as the gods who know it all. We will never know it all.
We will never know it all, Ankur. And I said the skill is in being able to find out that information. So if I have a meeting with a family and they need to know something, I'll say, hey, I don't know that, but I'm going to find that information out for you. Of course, sometimes ridiculous questions are asked as well. And then you're like, that information doesn't exist. If you find it, give it to me. One thing that I learned in this whole process of college and career counseling is the importance of data and case studies.
Data and case studies, yes.
Right. And that's something that we've really built at the Red Pen. When I have a family that comes into our office and has aspirations for their child, of course everyone does, right? You want the best for your kid. You want your kid to get into the best university in India or abroad, or however, access the best education. That mindset change, right, to kind of get them to think of best fit over highly ranked, is something that we really work on. And when you present a family with case studies and say, okay, you're looking at sending your child to Harvard, let me show you the profiles of the last of like 5 students from the Red Pen that have been admitted to Harvard. And automatically, when they see the kind of case studies, it's easier to kind of get them to understand what would work, what wouldn't
not
work.
Yeah. And setting the expectations right
Yeah.
for the
So,
family.
in fact, Mr. Ganesh Kohli, who founded IC3, he said something very interesting. He said a college counseling department is like has to be looked at like a laboratory.
Yeah.
Because you have to constantly keep
He calls
doing
it the counseling laboratory.
Exactly. And I really agree with that, because you have to be scientific, you have to be empathetic, you have to be kind, and understand where they're coming from. Minds can be changed, and you can only really make a difference when you're presented with the data, and when you're presented with options, and case studies where you've seen success, even if it's not something that you think that's the path to take.
So I agree with you. So I resonate with you, and absolutely, I think that should be the mantra for a lot of our career counselors friends that are listening into this podcast. My also another thought with you. I mean, let's go back to the Red Pen story. You have invested in Red Pen. It's 2016. And then you touched upon the boarding schools. You started working a lot of boarding schools. Still see a lot of work being done with a lot of UK boarding schools. You take them around. I'm sure there is more to that story. And then White Bridge happened. So what was that path like after the Red Pen?
Boarding schools is part of the Red Pen.
Okay.
So one of the business lines that we started at the Red Pen was boarding school admissions, where we do two things. We work with families who are looking at boarding schools for their children. And Ankur, the time that it really took off was COVID. I don't know if you remember, but in India we had 22 months of online school.
Online school,
right? And we were the only country that had the longest period of time without children actually going to school. Boarding schools internationally, British boarding schools, the ones in Switzerland, the ones in even Canada and the US, they kind of had their bubbles, and students could attend. So a lot of HNI families in India were looking at that as an option. So if I had a child who was going into the IB, would you prefer to send your child online for 2 years or send them to a boarding school? So that's kind of when the whole thing started. So we worked with families to help them identify the right fit boarding school, which is like the rest of my B2C business at the Red Pen. And then the boarding schools also heard about us.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, we want Indian students to come to our campus. The diversity, India is a growing market. They want Indian kids. We speak very good English. They want kids from our diaspora. So we started hosting boarding school fairs. In fact, this year has been particularly a success, I would say, because we did an American boarding school fair in November. Next week, we're doing one exclusively for Swiss boarding schools. And at the end of March, we're doing one for British boarding schools. And these are all the leading boarding schools in each of the different countries.
Amazing. More power to you.
Thank you.
I mean, Swiss and American and UK. So you will say that the boarding school are looking big time at India. I know a lot of now with the Indian government opening up doors for foreign education providers to come to India. You're saying I was at a QS summit 2 weeks back in Goa, where we had 30 UK university vice chancellors there in the room. And the UK High Commissioner said, I've never met so many vice chancellors, even in London, what I'm seeing in Goa. So, and there was a lot of conversation around universities coming and setting up campuses in India. I mean, even boarding schools, like big school chains, are now coming to India. So, what do you say of all that? What is the trend like? I mean, do you think more schools are going to come and set up campuses in India, or is it like outbound?
No, I think it's two ways, Ankur. So, like, the traditional campuses are always going to be the traditional campuses, right? And the fee structures are at that level, so it's going to be accessed by a very small percent of the population, but it's going to grow as India, grows as an economy and as a superpower. You will always have a certain kind of family that is going to look to send their children to Switzerland, to UK, or US, Canada, for boarding schools, even Australia. But the setting up of campuses in India, it's just getting started, if you ask me, and they're doing very well. Like, you've got a brand like Harrow that has a campus in Bangalore. You've got Wellington in Pune. Shrewsbury is opening in Bhopal. I'll tell you something so interesting. In September, we do something called a World Boarding School Fair, where we have boarding schools from all over the world that come and participate. And we had, Shrewsbury was there, Harrow was there, obviously some of the American schools, the Canadian schools, Australian schools, British schools. Which schools do you think were the busiest? The British schools that have campuses in India.
Oh, okay.
Shrewsbury and
I
Harrow,
know that.
Bangalore were the
Okay.
busiest tables, believe it or not. And Shrewsbury's campus hasn't even opened yet. They're
I know
opening.
that. Oh, this is so surprising. I
yeah,
didn't know this was the answer.
yeah, they were the busiest. So families are looking.
Yeah.
India still, I mean, look, we traditionally have some fantastic boarding schools in our own country, whether it's the Kodaikanal International School,
Yeah.
Woodstock, Doon School, some of the traditional ones. So
Mayo and
there
all that.
is a boarding school culture that we do have. With the NEP and the ability for these international brands to set up in India at the boarding school level, I think it's just the beginning, and we're going to see more campuses. And I also believe that at the university level, this is going to be a huge opportunity for India as well, because going abroad and studying has always been there, and I think that's going to continue to grow as well. But opportunities in India, no matter how many institutions have come up in the last few years, whether it's the Ashoka, the Plaksha, the Kriya, the Masters Union, we're full. There's more and more demand.
Absolutely, there is more and more demand, and having worked at Ashoka and OP Jindal and now at Masters Union, I can only see more and more people wanting good quality education within the country itself, and also with the
Yes.
geopolitical environment in the world. I mean, the Western world universities are looking at visa caps, and they have their own economic struggles. The world is looking at India for the growth trajectory for next 10 years. I mean, all the major World Bank reports or IMF reports all project to India. And when I look at Indian education right now with NEP 2020 and the current trends, it's like India's 92 liberalization movement for education happening right in front of our eyes. I mean, imagine we are sitting in Gurgaon and we have a top UK university opening a campus in Gurugram, in right next to
Southampton.
this was like always when I used to work. If I go back to my time at let's say Ashoka in 2015, 10 years back, we used to talk about this, and there was this foreign universities bill that used to always be stuck in the parliament, and we in the admissions office we used to talk. Okay, do you think if foreign institutions, if they will be allowed in India, and if they are allowed, will they be interested? But now it's like it has been done, and it's already people are moving and big things are happening, and I'm so excited, and I'm so happy that you're also resonating with that thought.
I'm really excited, Ankur, but I think that it's the bills have been passed. These universities are being set up, but I think that they have a long way to go to establish themselves.
Absolutely.
And I think our local universities that have been set up, like Masters Union, will give them a run for their money.
Absolutely.
So if they come, they have to really stay strong to their brand, make sure that they're actually delivering what they promise. And I want to see that. I mean, I'm very positive. Like I said, we've done it ourselves also. I mean, these foreign brands can come, but look at some of the institutions we've
we
created.
have built, and absolutely. I was going back to that summit in QS in Goa just 2 weeks back, and this was exactly the conversation. There were a lot of Indian universities in the room, and there were some bureaucrats in the room. They were saying, "Why are you allowing foreign universities? They have tax exemptions. We are a not-for-profit," and there was this financial debate. But a lot of the Indian university leaders in the room were actually very excited. They said, "Yes, we are ready for them. Let them come." It will also improve the average quality of Indian higher education, I believe.
100%.
100%. And then they also have a lot to prove. You're right. I mean, they have to compete with Masters Union, and they have to compete with Ashoka and OP Jindal and all these places, and say, yes, we have to be relevant to this part of the world. I mean, what has worked in UK will not work in India, right?
So, absolutely. And I think, Ankur, the bottom line is our population needs it.
Yes.
Right?
Our country needs it. Yeah.
Can have another 100 universities set up in India, and they'll all be full.
At Masters Union, I think this has been a transformative place, and you have seen us closely. I mean, last 2 years I have been working with you and talking about Masters Union with you and the Red Pen team, and I think we have also participated in your events, and we have some students that came in through Red Pen. What will you say about? I mean, our own model is very disruptive. I mean, what is your take on us as an institution?
We need more of you in India.
Yeah,
Ankur. Honestly, this is, like I said, it's disruptive. You're giving students real life skills. I just had an opportunity to meet 2 of the students right now. They speak so well. We need places like this. And one of the students said to me that she was planning to apply abroad, but then she chose Masters Union, and you can see why.
Yeah.
What a disruption you guys have brought into the market. And I think more and more universities are going to follow. But the rate at which we need them is not, the pace is still a little slow.
Absolutely.
So we all have a lot of work to do
Absolutely,
and a long way to
absolutely. That is
go.
what I keep telling the team at Masters Union, that I didn't believe it the first time I came in. I mean, coming from background of Ashoka and OP Jindal and
Yeah.
spending 10 years there, and then kind of we had that Ashoka and Jindal movement, and then kind of it slowed down. We didn't see 100 universities happening like at the scale
Yeah.
of Ashoka, and somebody who was working there, we were very excited that there's a lot of new universities being set up, but then it's a kind of tapered, especially the pandemic years. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
tapering happened because of that. But then when this came around and I visited this place at the first time, and like you said, you met a couple of students, I also met couple of students when I first came here. I was surprised. I said, what, this is like a dream where
Yeah.
students are actually building something. They are enjoying their classes. They are not trying to bunk classes, but they be in the class. You walk into the hallway here, and in the lift you can meet a student who is dealing in crypto, or they're dealing in something that you, when you were a teenager, you didn't even think that this world exists. We had our own small worlds and our own problems to deal with, but a lot of these students would have gone abroad.
Yeah.
And I think, and you will meet more such students in the next 2 days that you are here with us, and you'll see all of them are really bright students. Our acceptance rate is 10%.
Wow.
So we are actually not able to take 90% of the students that apply to us.
I'm not surprised, Ankur. Like I
Yeah.
said, there's enough people that want this
They
kind of
want this
education.
kind of
And
education.
look, if we look traditionally in history, right, has there really been a disruption in higher education? This one brick and mortar university you attend, you do classes, there's an internship. Like everywhere in the world, it's kind of stayed the same. I mean, the only place that really comes to my mind is, say, someone like a Minerva, where
Yeah.
you're kind of doing a different semester in each different different place of the world, or you're doing something different. And as India grows, there's going to be more and more need for disruption.
Yeah.
And we'll see that happening, and I think you guys are the first disruptors.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely. I
And
agree.
like you said, you cannot take 90% of the people that apply to you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So this just shows that we need more and more masters
yeah,
unions
and
too.
we don't need more masters union. We need more of this model of education, hands-on, experiential, and kids don't feel that there is a waiting room for them to enter industry. I mean, you're sitting in one of the costliest real estate land in the world. I mean, we are in DLF Cyber Hub. We have Samsung right in front of us. We have Aviva right next door to us. We have all the big tech firms headquarters right in the 10-kilometer radius, and that is by design, because we wanted a vertical campus where our students can go work in the industry, not from the second year, third year, from the first semester, build businesses from the first semester. CXOs, CTOs, CMOs come and teach. So if I have to learn digital marketing, who better than the chief marketing officer at Facebook to come and teach you? And this happens at Masters Union, and this is what the world needs. I mean, coming with AI and tech disruption, and I mean, the so knowledge is now easily accessible on the web. You can just Google anything, Chat GPT or whatever tech platform you use. But I think students now need real world experiences, people to talk to, and people who have done that, been there, done that, and now they are helping them achieve their own dreams. So, I mean, I'm in awe of Masters Union. I'm so happy that you are resonating with us now with Red Pen, and you talked about the boarding school work that you're doing and the White Bridge. You can just briefly talk about that also. But then, what is it for the Namita Mehta in the next coming years? What are you looking at in terms of your own personal professional journey?
So I'll quickly talk about Whitebridge Education and what we do here. It's a B2B business, and we offer services to universities that want to enter the Indian, Southeast Asian, Middle East market. Of course, that's going to expand as well. So the main offerings there are in-country representation, digital marketing, application processing, is what we do. I'm still very new in that space. We're about 2 years old, and there's about 6 universities that we're working with. But there's a lot of learning there as well. I'm very excited to kind of support more universities who are looking at India and Southeast Asia and this region. And look, there are lots of players that are already doing this. So you might ask me, Namita, why did you start Whitebridge Education?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, the reason is that I've started it because I'm a counselor first.
Yeah.
Most people who are in this in-country representation space are maybe not as attuned with education, and we come with a counseling lens, right? So it's me and Kim, who's my business partner at the Red Pen, and the head of our MBA team, Preeti Vadekar, who is the CEO at Whitebridge Education. We have all counseled students for over 20 years cumulatively. So when we work directly with universities, we understand when they say we want the right fit student. We understand when they say that, somebody with this kind of a background or this kind of a interest in this kind of a, long-term vision should come to our university. And that's what we bring to the table. And we've already got, like I said, 6 partners that we're working with in just 2 years that we've been around. So I'm very excited about that. And I want to grow that business, really grow it, and genuinely add value to whoever decides to work with us.
One more aspect on all women team. I mean, all
Oh,
women
yeah.
leaders. I mean, I'm so happy that all of
Yeah.
you are leading this, and more power to you. And finally, I had to ask this question that we are here for the career counselors. You are going to meet about 100 plus career counselors over the next 2 days. They come from 100 plus schools, and there is definitely there will be around 20-25 independent career counselors, as we call them, IECs or whatever term we want to use. And we always talk about this divide between a high school career counselor and unset divide, or sometimes set divide between an independent career counselor. What do you think of this tussle that keeps on happening? What drives an independent career counselor or a high school career counselor? Are these the same people? What are your thoughts on this debate that keeps on happening in our community?
No, that's a really great question, Ankur. And look, for me, I have sat on both sides
Yeah, yeah. You
of
started with
this.
BD Sumani.
Exactly. I started off as a school counselor, and now I'm an independent counselor. For me, I think the collaboration between the two groups is really important, and we've always been very open, even among the independent counseling community or even the high school community. I remember Kavita Mehta was one of the co-founders of the Red Pen. She had was the first one to start a WhatsApp group for collaboration. And
Mm.
many people found that very funny. Like, why should we help each other? I said,
Yeah.
why should we not? Like, I mean, I'm not going to take away your student.
Yeah.
They're already signed up with you, but
Yeah.
I might know the difference between the University of Michigan and UIUC. So
Yeah.
ask me. And that's a culture that we've always believed in. In fact, at the Red Pen or any event that I do, I invite my competitors. I'm happy, like, come, like, this gain knowledge as well. There's really
Yeah, that is one thing I love about
even
you.
school councils. I'm like, look, if I'm doing a summer programs fair, that's one of the big flagship events that we do at the Red Pen, where we invite different program providers to talk about what they can help their student with in terms of profile development. We do these big fairs. We did it across 5 cities this year. I personally invited the school counselors. I held a lunch and a tea for them. I said, come, I'm anyway gathering these people. You will need this information for your school students as well. Look, there is, sometimes there is a feeling that, look, why would a student want to go outside of a school if the school has their own
Yeah.
counselor? But the reality is that a school counselor's job is also a little bit administrative.
Yeah, I know.
Right? Like, I've worked in a school for 3.5 years, and I'm sure 50% of the students went to independent counsels because I was a one-person department.
Yeah.
And I had to handle 70 students that were applying abroad, plus 70 in 11th standard, 70 in 9th standard, and 70 in 10th standard. How do you manage all of this?
Yeah.
So the kind of one-on-one personal attention that I can give a student is not going to happen.
Absolutely not.
So unless schools genuinely invest in this department and get a team of 10 career counselors, which some of them are going towards that, the independent counseling practice is going to kind of also be there. And I genuinely believe that having school counselors are vital to the ecosystem. IC3 was born, career and college counseling in every school.
Yeah.
That is a bit contradictory to what I do, but I believe in that mission.
Yeah.
That's why I even help them. I sit on some of their boards. I've supported them. I've taught in the IC3 Institute
done
because
some
I
fantastic
believe
work.
in that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, India is such a huge country. Not everyone can access an independent counselor. So if you have some career counseling happening in schools, that's very important. Look, at least at the Red Pen, I believe that many school counselors also respect the work that we do. They're very open to us. They do speak to us. Of course, there are also a handful that don't like us, but I still think that collaboration is going to win.
Wonderful. And I love this to end my podcast with you. Collaboration is going to win. And I've always admired this in you, that you have always given space to others around you. You have always believed in collaboration. You have always believed in doing the right thing, not only just for your own self, but for the larger community. And that makes you stand out. And that's what makes her the Namita Mehta. I mean, that's what I would like to end by. It was an honor to have you here on this podcast. Looking forward to spending the next couple of days with you at Intersect. And we're so excited that you could take time out for us. And I hope you will also find it useful spending those next 2 days meeting with our community at Masters Union, meeting the larger community, that is flying in from 10 different countries for Intersect, from the industry, from the career counseling perspective, and from the larger higher education landscape. So thank you so much, Nabita. It was an honor being hosting you here with us.
Thank you so much, Ankur Vora.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.